Good. So, my question is about eschatology. I don't know if you answer questions about eschatology.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
yeah. So it was specifically pertaining to hadiths that talk about the end times, but also with reference to like weapons of antiquity. So, like when they reference swords and arrows, and referencing post or sorry future events, and how that is related to the modern world, and how
Yeah,
that will like
bro, I think that have you traveled to the Middle East?
yeah, I have.
Then there's your answer, bro. Like people like in Egypt, I wake up every morning when I'm there and I see donkeys and horses. It's not a thing. It's not irrational in the least. It's if donkeys and horses were extinct, I'd see a problem.
Yeah.
But they're around, bro. If you go to the Middle East, donkeys and horses are everywhere.
Not animals, not domesticated animals,
It's
more
weapons.
like weapons of
Oh, okay.
antiquity.
No, no, because it's some of the animals, like khayl and stuff. I mentioned the hadith as well. That's number one, yeah.
Mhm.
But still, like swords and stuff. Yeah, they almost every army have knife and swords and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Like,
but there's also something else to consider here.
Yeah.
Now,
I take these as literal, by the way. I don't do ta'wil of these ones. I don't feel like that this is a matter of metaphor. I think
No.
this is talking about actual sword fighting.
yeah,
That someone will bring out, like when it says the sword and all that stuff. I think that is what will happen. Someone will bring out a sword because this is what happened. People fight with knives and swords. What's a sword? Well, at what point does a khanjar become a safe? At what point does a knife become a sword? A khanjar is what has to be this big, and a sword becomes like that big. At what point? And look at, just do a research for yourself. How many army uniforms have these kinds of knives? They have them inside their whatever. Like, I don't see an issue with this. The pouches, or sometimes when you're doing on ground fighting, sometimes you need to have like a knife or a sword or something.
there is this, but there's also something else to consider, that if there was to be a war in which people use nuclear weapons,
Yeah.
you would have, the ozone layer being blocked. You'd have these long winters. You'd have mass starvation. You would have the world going back to its primitive times. And what would people do? You wouldn't have factories churning out bullets. So you'd have swords. You'd have sticks. You'd have bows and arrows. So these things are all possible.
They're happening now. Like, bro, all you have to do is just, if you did a dissertation on the use of swords and knives in modern warfare in the last 100 years, I think you'd be surprised.
But World War One, people use bayonets.
Yeah.
In fact, I was watching a documentary about one of these recent conflicts, and because things got so close, they were using bayonets. Even today, we're talking about just a few years ago.
And would that be considered a sword?
But I think there's a wider epistemic question here, and that question is to do with, what do you do when a Quranic verse or a narration of the Prophet ﷺ says something which sounds like it's not likely to be the case? So, for example, say I need to check whether this narration is grading, but about the abundance of women compared to men.
I've seen shuruhat on that. I've seen the explanations on that. Actually.
Yeah. So I'll give you an example. So you've heard 1 to 50, right, as a ratio.
Yeah. No, but some say that is some say that's an expression.
The expression. Okay, that's fine. However, I just want everybody to consider something. The first point to know is, as Muslims, we are never going to reach the iman and the status of Abu Bakr. We are never ever going to reach that. But he was asked to believe in something far greater, which is the night journey. And the night journey compared to something like this, right? And when people hear stuff like this, they start to get rattled. Like, oh, how's that possible? Is Islam false? And here, we have something in our history like the night journey, and he says, I believe it because the messenger said it. If he said it, I believe. So for us, it's those tests again. Why are these strange things mentioned if it's not a test? So that's one aspect. But the other aspect is that, is it really out of this world to imagine? For example, in World War One, many men were dying. You had more women than men. In places in the Middle East and in Asia and Africa, where there's been war, most of the people who die are men. And so you can see these ratios playing out. In fact, one of the things which is interesting is polygamous marriages helps save civilizations when a lot of men die from these types of battles, and then there's more women left over. So anything which
the 50-1 as well has been like the language. Some say it's just al-mubalagha, meaning like hyperbole statement.
As a huge number.
Yeah, as in it will be a huge differential. The 50-1 is not exactly the ratio. Some say that's a legitimate. I've even seen this in Salafi books, like recent ones. I think might have been Mohammed Webber's one, but
okay. So
thing of
here's a question for you: are we not supposed to take it first that it's literal, and then if there's a reason, then we would take it?
No, because the thing
is not the general rule.
Yeah, but sometimes a lot of it is linguistic. So they'll look at the language. If the Arabs used to use that kind of language to mean a lot, then that could be a legitimate literal interpretation. They wouldn't say it's even metaphoric. They would say that's just an expression.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
To indicate kathra, to indicate a lot of things.
And the thing about end times, I mean, you mentioned about swords and these things to be used. End times are filled with these types of miraculous events, these types of things which sound incredibly strange. When we hear about the Dajjal and what he'll be able to do and how long a day is and how our sustenance would be the Athkar, right? All these things, we have to remember that, I think it's, what's his name, that author, Clark, right? He said magic is indistinguishable. Some magic is indistinguishable from technology, right?
Oh.
So from if you imagine someone from 7th century Arabia was to come to this table and watch this, they would consider this sihr. They would consider this miraculous. Like you're sitting wherever you're sitting, we're here, we're talking, there's this laptop, there's electricity, there's internet, there's satellite, there's all this electronics. Do you see what I mean? Yeah, we already live in a very strange world. Yeah, the world is very strange compared to what it was many years ago. So I think that's a general attitude as we as Muslims need to have, that whenever we hear something strange, we need to go back to our epistemology, which is, if Islam is true, then whatever the Prophet ﷺ said is true. And then these things, whatever they are, they shouldn't really, take us neither here nor there.
All right, brother.
Yeah, thank you. No, I agree. It's like something's unlikely until it happens. It's like the story of Jonah and the whale. How someone being swallowed by a whale and spat back out is unlikely until it happened recently with that man.
But it didn't even need to happen.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
This is where I think it's very important for us as Muslims to never put the cart before the horse. So, for example, these atheists like this Dawkins, right? He'll mock the night journey.
I didn't know that some guy got eaten by a whale, by the way.
Yeah, it happened supposedly some months ago. Is it some months ago this year, right?
Yeah, a few months ago, someone got eaten by a whale and spat back out.
Is he still alive, the guy? Stuff, or is he?
Yeah, he's alive still. Yeah, he's like.
No way. Kidding, bro. Please send me the link of this. Where was it?
Do you not get him on the MH podcast?
Where was he?
Get him on the podcast.
I'm not sure. I think it might be in Australia somewhere, but yeah, he got swallowed for like a few minutes and got spat back out.
Imagine he was an atheist that was rejecting this story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see all the comment section on YouTube all referencing the story of Jonah.
Yeah, I'll beg you send me the thing.
Yeah.
What kind of whale was it? Sperm whale?
I don't know. I'll try to find out. I'll put it in the chat.
Please, man.
So this point about not putting the cart before the horse, yeah. You see, people like Dawkins, they like to get fixated on the moon splitting or on or the night journey or whatever. But the fact is, they're putting the cart.
What's the other thing?
The structuralism thing, yeah.
No, there's the thing in the beautiful.
Where?
You know the thing where the comments are there.
Oh right, there you go.
Yeah.
So
they put the link there.
Yeah, brother, if you can put the link in the comment section, but we can find that.
I put it in now. I think
it's not difficult to. Here you go. You put it there.
Okay.
Hijab just can't wait for it. So
that's no.
What do developers build on the SendGrid API?
It's not April Fool's joke.
No, it's not.
I beg you, we should do a reaction video to this thing, bro.
We should, but I don't know what's in this video, so maybe we should not. We should not try it. So look, putting the cart before the horse, yeah. Yeah, you never know. Putting the cart before the horse, yeah. So they'll always get fixated on these miracles. How is it possible that you can have, the moon splitting or this or this? But the fact is, we need to bring them back to the Gorab. We need to bring them back to God's existence, because God's existence fits well with these things. God says, "Kun fayakun," it happens. Allah can create a child through a man and a woman in a normal reproductive process, or Allah can create a child like Isa alayhi salam without a father. So miracles are not, there's nothing illogical about them. There's nothing irrational about them. They would be irrational, illogical if there wasn't a God. What these people do is they just fixate on these things and like, oh, how can you as a Muslim believe this? And when you say to them, well, if you believe in God, why is it difficult to believe in this? Or why is it difficult? Hypothetically, Jonah was swallowed by the whale, right? So we have that story. Imagine if all of the stories that we get from all of the survivors and everything, it's not possible to survive inside the belly of a whale because of acid or whatever. We would still believe the story. No, we would still believe it. It's got nothing to do. We don't need that evidence to believe in the story. Because it could be that Allah layers that.
It's nothing for
no, nothing for us. Absolutely
even
nothing.
if it was April Fool's joke or something.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you, brother Mustafa.
Yeah, thank you. Enjoy the video.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah.
Jazakallah khair. Very good
I think
question.
you benefit us more than benefit.
Well, that's the way it should be. I learn a lot in these live streams, actually.